Yeah.
I'd like to call to order the Monday, June 14th meeting of the St. Lawrence County Services Committee. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So by Mr. Denisha, seconded by Mr. Smithers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our May 17th, 2021 meeting by Ms. Curran, seconded by Mr. Perkins. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll start off with Jay Ulrich, Community Services. Jay?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. So the first resolution is authorizing the chair to sign amended contracts and modify the 2021 budget for community service for funding received from New York State OASIS to St. Lawrence County as pass-through funding to approved agencies. So there's 3 agencies on the OASIS side that recently received salary enhancements.
Let me hold you up a minute, Jay. Is there a motion to move this? By Mr. Perkins, seconded by Mr. Smithers. Go ahead, Jay.
So these 3 agencies are going to be getting salary enhancements that are added to their existing state aid that they receive for their operations.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'll read the second one here. Authorizing the chair to sign a cooperative agreement with the North Country Initiative, NCI, for promise practice funding funds and modifying the 2021 budget for community services. Moved by Mr. Perkins, seconded by Ms. Curran. Jay?
Okay, so NCI, they had $175,000 left of funding from the DSRIP program. And DSRIP was a program that was trying to move providers more towards value-based payments and integration of care and whole health. So they had this money left over, so they created promise practices funds, and they released an RFP, a competitive RFP for providers to submit applications for innovative uses for therapy. So we submitted an application for, it's a company called SciUS, and they do virtual reality therapy. So we were awarded $23,900. $22,000 will go to buy 3 of these virtual reality goggles. And then the rest would be for advertising, cleaning supplies, and then printing up pamphlets for this, this additional innovative practice. Now, this isn't going to be used the entirety of the session. It's going to augment and be added to, the verbal therapy. So we thought this would really be good for people in the jail that are experiencing stress, certainly for kids. I mean, we sometimes have kids that are very disengaged in treatment because it's mandated for whatever reason, and they're very hard to engage. So we thought it would be good for kids. So, there's a variety of different software applications for this. It could be bullying, it could be relaxation. It could be for any number of anxieties. One of the virtual reality sessions involves someone entering a subway train and who has social anxiety. And the therapist has a control panel, and they can choose the difficulty of the event. I mean, they can make the train full, they can make the train illuminated, they can make it dark, they can make it loud versus quiet. And during this virtual reality session, it's integrated with biofeedback.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pen.
So, and at the end, in combination with the biofeedback, the therapist input,
Enter your participant ID followed by pound.
and the anxiety response, it generates a report that is given as feedback to the clinician. So we thought this would be a good tool for our clinics. So we're asking to accept the $23,900.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Nicole?
Thank you. Sorry, I know we're hard to see up here. Jay, this sounds like a really great and innovative new technology to help people in their decision-making processes. I'm just wondering, down the road, this software system or this company, are there annual fees that will be incurred or updates to the program, maintenance fees? Do they offer support, or will this be something that we'll have to find additional finance or financial support for down the road?
Well, the support is for 2 years, I believe. And then after that, unless we wanted to upgrade, there wouldn't be any costs. Now, if they add additional modules, there might be some expenses to that. But otherwise, there would not be.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Jay, you have a clinical update?
Yes, I do. So this is for May. Again, it's pretty flat, and we've kind of plateaued in a lot of different measures here. The no-show rate did slightly drop. The counselor visit average, the average of those 3 bars is 6.0. Last month it was 7.0. But I don't know if I've ever said, but this measure doesn't take into account the number of hours worked. So if they took vacation, personal time, sick time, then it's still based on the 70 hours per pay period. So there were a lot of people that chose to use some benefit time because of the reopening. I mean, people were, as we all were, feeling kind of shut in. So a lot of people did take vacations during this month. So that would explain the drop there. In terms of weighted visits, now that does take into account number of hours worked. There was a slight decrease of 1.5% on the addiction side, but an increase from last month on the mental health weighted face-to-face visits. The prescriber hours remained almost exactly flat from last month. We do have wait lists. The addictions clinics have approximately 11. That's kind of a moving target. At the time that this reported was 11, and mental health has a wait list of 33. So in terms of services provided, we did have a jump in the number of services provided during the month of March, fairly significant jump. I was trying to think, what was going on in March. I did know we did bring in a new therapist at the end of April, so perhaps having the new therapist on board on the mental health clinic side was the cause of this jump, but at least it's going in a positive direction. And then in terms of the billing and paid percentages, again, it went up a little bit, but it's predominantly flat, around 90 to 88%. Any questions?
Questions or comments? No, I don't see any, Jay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Jay.
All right, thank you.
We'll move on now to public health, and the first resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a facilities rental agreement with the Ogdensburg Free Academy for use of the football field for an opioid overdose awareness community event. Is there a Motion been moved by Ms. Curran, seconded by Mr. Smithers. Jolene, go ahead.
Thank you. So we did not host an opioid awareness event last year due to COVID. We did host one in 2019 in Madrid. So this year we're looking to go to Augsburg, and OFA has agreed to allow us to contract with them to host it at their football field. So we are looking for the chair to sign an agreement for the cost of the rental space for the day.
Any discussion or any comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Tony Hoffman for the opioid overdose awareness community event. Is there a motion by Ms. Curran, seconded by Mr. Akers? Go ahead, Jolene.
So this is for that same event to have Tony Hoffman as a speaker. So be contracting with him as a keynote speaker, and he would be sharing his personal path to recovery, information on the Good Samaritan law, and harm reduction, along with education and training on the use of Narcan.
Any questions? Mr. Akers.
I would just say he's a great speaker. I saw him when he spoke in Waddington. There's a couple hundred people there, and he really held the audience really quiet about how we ended up starting out as a great athlete and lived in a home, got hooked on drugs, ended up homeless, ended up in prison, and now he has recovered. I will note that if you read the paper in Watertown, somebody just died, had been clean for 6 months or 6 years, and still succumbed to have overdose and passed away. So it's always there, it's or addiction it's always there. And like I said, he was a counselor and stuff. So this Tony Hoffman can reach out and make a difference for one person. It's worth $6,000.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is carried. The next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign contracts with school districts for preschool special education transportation services. Is there a motion by Mr. Smithers, seconded by Mr. Perkins? Jolene, go ahead.
So this resolution would authorize the chair to sign contracts with the school districts to provide transportation for our preschool education program. Currently, we only have one dedicated contractor, but in case of a backup or additional services, it would allow us to work with the school districts to bus within their districts but also out of their school district.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Jolene, you want to comment about?
I think that's it for today.
All right.
I have a question for her.
Okay, Mr. Akers has a question.
Jolene, last month I asked about the number of hospitalizations for COVID. Do you have a number for me now?
No, I will have that for the Board of Health meeting tomorrow night, and then I'll have it for the next board meeting. I did not anticipate any COVID questions, but I will have it for Board of Health tomorrow.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you, Jolene. Have a great evening. And next we will move to social services, where Cynthia Ackerman will have a discussion regarding emergency rental assistance program. Are you with us, Cynthia? There you are.
Hi,
Good evening.
good evening.
Go right ahead.
Well, I wasn't informed that I needed to talk on this, but I can give you some updates on where we are with the program. We are working cohesively with Milk through Messina. We have put out a lot of information in regards to through the newspapers, through the local news TVs, to get the word out that we do have the ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, going on right now. We do have staff at the Department of Social Services who are ready and able to either help people that are coming into the department, or if there's somebody out in the community that is unable to get here, we can actually have the staff, go out and meet them to help get their information all into the system. We also did order some equipment through some money that we were provided to help set up, to help people with applications. So we did order some laptops that should be in this week, which will help, hoping within the next week or so that we can actually determine where some of these people are out in the community that may need some extra help. And we're looking at either setting up at maybe some local fire departments or different things like that, so that we can let the people in those areas know that we're going to be out there, so that if they need assistance, they can know where to come and what time we'll be there and on what day we'll be there. So we are doing our best to outreach. Right now, we do have a list of tenants that are landlords that we received from that we know tenants haven't been paying their rent. So we did reach out to them. So we are working with them one-on-one to help them through the process and help them, to get a hold of some of the tenants so we can work with them. And we do have a list from National Grid on who has not been able to pay their electric bill. So we are also working on that list and doing some outreach to make sure that our community members know that part of this ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, does help with, paying back 12 months of the energy bills as well.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Mr. Burke.
Cindy, the initiative for the application comes from the tenant?
It's actually a combination. The tenant can start the application or the landlord can start the application. It actually takes both parties to put into the application in order to have it submitted to OTDA. So we are working on, if there's a tenant, either they can't get a hold of the landlord, or a landlord, they can't get a hold of the tenant. We're also working to try to get them connected and get that information in. That's kind of where too, if there's a landlord that's having trouble getting a hold of a tenant, we can actually, if they're having trouble, getting into the system or getting to the building, we're going to be able to go out and help them to get their part of the application processed.
Is there good cooperation, Cindy, with the tenants?
So far, we've had some, it's been really good cooperation. I think everybody's on board. The only problems we're having right now are if the tenant has moved from the location. Once they've moved from that location, there's nothing that we can do to help process the application, and the application would be void. The tenant actually has to be living at the location at the time of the application.
Is the eviction notice still in effect? I mean, how do you know if the individual is moved? And I mean, at what point can the landlord gain access?
I would say if the landlord knows that the tenant has moved, and there's no way they can process that application because the tenant has to be living at that address, then they probably have means to proceed with probably some whatever legal process they want to do to work through. The moratorium ends the end of August, so hopefully people understand that we're here to help them and help them get these funds paid, and they don't find it as something where they just have to up and leave. So, but I do see it further. There's going to be another maybe wave of what's going to happen with the landlords that are left with the unpaid bills of the tenants that have left.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move to the vacancy review. Mr. Silver.
For the vacancy review on services committee, we have 5 different positions from 3 different departments. 4 of them are backfills, 1 potential abolish and create, and no new positions on this agenda. First, we'll go right back to Cindy and social services. Cindy?
Okay, so I have 3 positions here tonight. Does it matter what order, Dylan?
We have position number, well, go ahead with the 2 caseworkers. Position 24 we have first, and then 31 at the end.
Okay, so the first caseworker position is a position that was vacated due to a promotion. This caseworker actually went promoted to one of our senior caseworker trainers, who's going to be fabulous in the position. So we had this caseworker position opened, and this is the one position that works with the JD and PINS children. So it's really important that we backfill this position immediately.
Any questions? Moving on to the second caseworker position.
Okay, this caseworker is a staff that resigned, but this staff actually moved over to the probation department. So this staff actually was on our home finders staff, and we are really looking to build that unit. So again, that we can start working towards opening more of our own foster homes. So we really need to have this position backfilled immediately as well.
Any questions? Okay, now the senior caseworker, Cindy.
Okay, so this senior case worker position is also a position that vacated due to a promotion. This caseworker was promoted to a grade B position. So we are looking to backfill this senior caseworker. This senior caseworker oversaw the unit right now that we have for adoption and kinship. So as we are again looking towards the family first and all of the kinship percentages goals that we are working to reach, we really need to have this caseworker, senior caseworker filled. Also, in addition, we now have, up to over 50 children freed for adoption. So we are really working to get those adoptions processed. And this senior caseworker does have a caseload of children helping to help process those adoptions.
Okay, any questions for Cindy? Okay, thank you, Cindy.
All right, thank you.
Next, we're moving on to community services. And if you remember in 2019, late 2019, there was a resolution passed that allowed community services to fill counselor positions by either 2 different civil service titles. So for the vacancy authorization, we have been approving those as behavioral health clinicians, and that can encompass both the mental health counselor and a licensed social worker. So if the position that was not the positions being replaced, this could be an abolish and create. But if we get the same position in as the person leaving, it could just go into that position as well. So Jay, if you want to go from there.
Yes. Before I speak to this, I did contact our program director. There could be some subscription fees to the goggles. So at the end of the 2-year grant, we're going to have to assess the efficacy of using the goggles and make a decision as to whether or not we're going to put a resolution in for ongoing subscription fees.
Thank you, Jay.
So this is a vacancy authorization to fill, like Dylan said, a behavioral health clinician. This was a fairly tenured clinician who resigned. She did not want to return to work. She wanted to remain working from home because of some of the care that she was giving to family, and didn't want to risk being exposed. So she is going to be working for another organization that allows them to work at home. So we do have a little over 30 people on the wait list. and plus her caseload, which is approximately 80. So we are asking for an immediate fill so we can continue with continuity of care.
Any questions for Jay? Okay, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
And last on this agenda, we have Office for the Aging for a keyboard specialist position. Andrea?
Good evening, everyone. So this is a keyboard specialist position that is very sadly open due to a beloved staff member of ours passing away in December. So we took about a 6-month break in trying to decide if we needed to refill the position, but certainly with the doors reopening on June 1st, our keyboard specialist is the person who sits in the front of our office, greets all of our visitors, handles all of our call flow, as well as takes referrals for our volunteer transportation center program and our legal aid referrals. So this is why we are bringing it forward now to be refilled, and it is within our 2021 budget.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Moving along to committee reports. For the Board of Health, Mr. Akers.
Be meeting tomorrow night.
Thank you. CDP Board of Directors, Mr. Sheridan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Community Development Program Board of Directors, their financial team met on the 17th. It's the audit and finance on the 17th of May, which was the last day that we met here in services. And the report's pretty much the same as it was then when I reported, but I'll give you a little bit of an update. Head Start is currently running within the budget with 29.48% spent of the base grant. The training and the CAFP grants are all running within budget as well. There are no concerns with the Head Start program at this time. Weatherization has expended approximately $34,000 of the 21-22 grant. The Weatherization amendment has been submitted for their last increase budget, and there are no concerns with the health and safety budget at this time. HEAP has had a profit of $2,800. HEAP program has ended, and the cooling program will be opening shortly, probably already has opened. The HCVP is currently doing well with a profit of $15,000 and expended 30.51% of their budget. They received a FSS grant in the amount of $39,749. The CARES security deposit budget has not changed a lot since last time I reported. We've not had many requests or referrals. This grant has been extended to the end of June. The CARES COVID grant is 63% spent with a deficit of $21,627. This will be billed out and reimbursed. The CSPG is currently 59% expended, and we're halfway through the grant. There are no concerns at this time. The town funds have all been received and are 32.90% expended. The food bank payroll grants helped a great deal with salaries. The last meeting we had, there was questions here that asked of me that I didn't know the answer to. At the last services meeting, there were some questions concerning the St. Lawrence County CDP Weatherization program. The program is funded through the New York State HEAP program and the Department of Energy. Their allocations change annually. So St. Lawrence County is awarded an allocation based on a formula that the state uses. The formula consists of the number of low-income people in our heating degree days. The allocation they receive drives the number of houses that they do each year. So I was asked to see what the allocations were over the last 3 years. And so for 2018, the allocation amount was $592,211. That served a number of 74 units. And then the next year, 2019 and 21, due to COVID, the year 2019 was a 2-year contract. allocation amount of $1,239,033, and the number of units was 125. And then this year, 2021, they received a $1,000 increase in their budget amount, so that amounted to 787,320, and the number of units was 75. So then the HCR Homes and Community Renewal has also increased their cost per unit each year to adjust for the cost increase in materials. And they do anticipate additional funds for heat in next year from the stimulus package. That's it on the CDP report.
Any questions regarding the CDP report? Thank you, Mr. Sheridan. Moving along to the Community Services Board, Ms. Curran.
Some of this you've already heard from Jay, so the superintendent, I'll be brief. Citizens Advocate has gotten a letter of support to offer school-based services in Messina Elementary, Madison, Nightingale, and Jefferson Elementary to begin in the fall. Currently, they're in Brazier Elementary, Middle, and High Schools and Trinity School in Messina. The update on the OTP is they do not have a lease yet. They have applications for Oasis in the Department of Health that they filed the first week in June. They don't have a construction start date yet. Aileen Martin from NERCO, which is the Northern Regional Center for Independent Living, announced that Kathy Connor, which is like Dylan, is retiring in July. They're going to post her position. You already know about the $23,900 for the reality therapy tool. We talked about Tony Hoffman. And the county department heads have decided to do this year's community service project on suicide awareness as it affects so many.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Curran. Next to the Office of the Aging Advisory Board, Mr. Denisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had actually had our meeting this morning at 10 o'clock. We Zoom, and our next meeting is going to be September 13th, and we're excited about it. It's going to be live. But the Brazier and Governor congregate dining sites are going to reopen July 1, which is huge. Obviously, we haven't had congregate dining sites open in probably 15 months. There will be some. They won't be opening like they were. There will be some changes. One of the changes will be folks will be required to make a 24-hour reservation, 24 hours in advance. And if you're familiar with the what's that, Eric?
Can't do a beer with you.
Okay.
It's really loud. I'm sorry, Gary. Okay.
And the meals, if you've eaten at one of the congregate dining sites before, it normally was cafeteria style. If you go up in with your tray, that will no longer be what they do. The meals will actually be brought to the tables. And one of the things that started early on in with the pandemic, we lost a lot of volunteers because a lot of the volunteers were 65 and older. And that was volunteers that work in the nutrition centers, volunteers that help with home delivered meals. And there was some concern that anyone that was 65 or older, there was I believe it was called Matilda's Law. And thought that folks couldn't be doing it. I got confirmation that today that there is no age limit on volunteers. We still need volunteers. If you're, no matter how old you are, if you're willing to volunteer, we need you. And our next meeting, as I said, is going to be September 13th.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, moving to the Youth Advisory Board, Ms. Terminelli.
Yes, sir, thank you. So our last meeting was on May 27th. We have 3 openings on the committee that are going to be coming up in August. We have 3 members that have done fantastic service for us for years: Scott Quinnell, Pam Lewis, and Michelle James, but they will not be seeking reappointment. So we do have some openings. If anybody's interested in joining the Youth Advisory Board, please make sure to get an application in. Last week, we did release our 2022-2024 RFPs for youth development programs. And the application deadline for that is July 30th. The program applicants were we put out a needs assessment to the schools, through the schools last month, just to see what the youth in our communities think that they need for services and where there may be gaps, and what their preferences would be for types of programming and time. So we are asking this year for the application for the RFPs to address some of the needs assessment survey on that. We did receive 696 survey responses from the kids across the county. I believe it was grades 5 through 12 on that. And we have 18 requests in for the RFP to date. There's news coverage, social media, radio, and there's been some email stuff sent to previous applicants. We're also in the process of scheduling interviews to hire some youth interns over the summer. We're looking for 4 to 5 individuals to work with the Youth Bureau over the summer. The application deadline for that is June 21st. And there was a radio interview with information about it with openings hosted by Judy Tosti. And then the last thing is we just wanted to give a shout out to our PSA participants. So we had some youth committee people that are our youth committee members that are really trying to raise awareness about the vaccine and take away some apprehensions that maybe the 18 and under crowd have in getting vaccinated. So they had some PSAs that were up. One of our youth committee members, Maddie, and then there were some other ones as well, shared their personal experiences of getting the 2 doses of the COVID vaccine through some social media posts and some video campaign. So I just want to thank them for their work on that, and thank you for raising awareness. And then our next youth committee meeting is tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll continue to do those virtually because it's just more convenient for our teen members. And then our next youth advisory board meeting is on Thursday, the 24th at 3 p.m.
Thank you, Nicole. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there any old business? Any new business? We have need for executive session for
litigation, negotiations, and appointments. I would ask that we move executive session to after operations committee following this.
And we will hold that executive session after the operations meeting. Is there any further business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
I guess we will call the June 14th Operation Committee to order, and I ask for approval of the agenda
So moved.
from Mr. Denisha and second by Mr. Akers. Can I have approval of the minutes of the May 10th meeting? Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Forsythe.
We need a vote too on both.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition? All right, so carried. This is not lining up. Approve the agenda. I asked for an approval of the minutes. We voted on that. Okay, we voted on the minutes. Everyone who's willing to vote on the approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Normally Ruth leaves me a cheat sheet. I don't have one. Sorry. So my first resolution, I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a memorandum of agreement with the United States Army Garrison, USAG, Fort Drum, for the sharing of radio frequencies.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Denisha, seconded by Mr. Sheridan. Mr. Denner is here someplace to speak to this. Mr. Denner?
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? What this is for is a MOU for the chair to sign, giving agreement for us to use radio frequencies for the emergency services on Fort Drum, and then for them to contact us on our frequencies in case of emergency on that end of the county.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Thank you, Mr. Denner.
Thanks, guys.
So for probation, I have a resolution proclaiming July 18th through 24th, 2021 as Probation, Parole, and Community Supervision Week. Moved by Mr. Sheridan, second by Mr. Forsythe. Mr. Page?
Good evening, everybody. So this is our annual resolution proclaiming July 18th through the 24th Probation, Parole, and Supervision Week. This is just to recognize the hard work and dedication of my staff. Generally, we do a community work project. However, with COVID, I think we are going to bypass that this year. Give it one more year to get back to normal. We will probably still do a picnic like we normally do that week, just for staff to get together and take a day to kind of veg out together. So that's about it.
Any questions, Mr. Akers?
Tim, since the change in bail reform, has the number of parolees or people on probation, have those numbers increased exponentially, or but COVID kind of changes the factor, but are you seeing, do you have more work, I guess is what I'm asking.
Tough to tell right now because of COVID. We have seen a decrease in pretrial cases, but we've seen our normal cases are starting, our supervision cases are starting to go up. So I assume you're going to see everything start going up as courts are opening back up. But hard to tell with COVID right now that how much of an effect that's going to have on us.
Okay, just a follow up.
Go right ahead, Mr. Akers.
How many people do we have with the ankle bracelets now, Tim?
Right now, actually, we only have one on right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And happy Probation Day. I have a resolution proclaiming June 27th, 2021 as National HIV Testing Day in St. Lawrence County. We've had a lot of talk about COVID. We've had a lot of stuff. We still have 1.2 million people living in the United States with HIV, 16,000 Americans with AIDS dying each year. So bringing back up testing. Go ahead, Mr. Forsythe, we'll move it. A second. Mr. Lightfoot. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. We're on to Vacancy Review Committee.
Okay. So for operations, we have 3 different positions from 2 different departments. Once again, these are all backfills. We're going to start with county clerk.
Thank you. I have actually 2 positions that will be opening due to retirement at the DMV. Both positions will be in Canton. Both jobs are very difficult, and I am losing 2 20+ year employees. So those shoes are hard to fill. So I asked that I could get those filled immediately so I could have at least a little bit of time with the 2 there with their experience and knowledge to share with the new employees.
Any questions for Sandy? Mr. Akers?
Mr. Akers?
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of this, Sandy. Can you give us an update of how things are going? We talked about having security. Do you have security there? Are you being inundated? How's the office going for you?
We do not have security, and things are going much better than I ever thought they would. There's a few hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it's been running fairly smooth.
Do you anticipate that you lost some revenue with the COVID for people actually sending directly to the state? I mean, do you have an analysis of what you may have lost by people not being able to utilize the office that they went ahead and they mailed into the state?
It's hard to tell a lot how much we've lost. I know that we've lost locally, but I think our downstate business has picked up. There's definitely some work to be done to get some of the local people back when they went online during COVID.
And my final question is, do you have some candidates for this, for these 2 positions already lined up that are interested?
I did send out canvas letters after our committee meeting the other day.
Okay, all right, thank you, Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the county clerk? Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Information Technology.
Next, we have Rick Johnson from Information Technology.
Good evening, thank you. I have a computer technician slot to fill the unfortunate passing of Dennis Stockham on the 1st of June. Ruth allowed me to do a contingent temporary hire of someone who is now working in the post. So he's working full time. He's working out well, but he in that position is not able to have benefits. He left a job to try this because he wants to be in county employed. So far, so good. I have 2 technicians and my staff of 6. They are the ones responsible for maintaining the fleet. It's a very busy job. So when your computer breaks, it's one of these 2 that comes and fixes it basically, or sets it up for you. And happy to entertain questions.
Any questions?
Just a comment, Rick, I'm sorry, we all are sorry for your loss. We got a small department, it's a major impact, and we hope you do well, the whole team.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Anything else for Rick?
Just a quick question, Rick. And
Sure.
it's in regards to all the ransomware. Over the past few weeks, we've seen refineries, hospitals, even meat packing facilities that have been held hostage by ransomware. Where are we here at St. Lawrence County to avoid such a situation?
That's a great question, and it curiously was brought up during the vacancy review. And my response to that is, I would say we're doing very well. I would be happy, and I said this at that time, I'd be happy to prepare something for the entire board and bring to you on some level of detail what exactly we are doing. I will tell you that security matters have been a very large concern of mine for the last, they have been for a long time, but of particular focus in the last couple of years. And it really has been a paradigm shift down here. It's not just a matter of buy the software, put this firewall in. There really has been, I've been advocating a change in the environment and change in approach and how we do things, how we educate users. And so there really is a multi-leveled, multi-pronged approach that I'd be happy to go into any level of detail that you like. I will tell you, obviously, as you hear with the ads, nothing can 100% keep all ransomware out. That said, our position, the county's position today, is significantly better than it was a year to 18 months ago. And again, I'd love to dig into this further because I think you should know. It's a very good question.
We'll schedule that.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. That's I think it would be worthwhile. I'm sure that a lot of the information that you will provide, that I won't have any idea what you're talking about. But
I promise to make it legislator friendly.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would. I certainly, I for one, would like to see a presentation.
I would be happy to do it. I really would.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, Rick? Okay, thank you, Rick.
All right, we will move on to committee reports. Mr. Denisha, Agricultural and Farmlands Protection Board.
Nothing new to report since my last report. But our next meeting is going to be Thursday, October 7th.
Okay.
Take the summer off so we get paid.
Noted. Alternative to Incarceration Board, Mr. Bird.
There is nothing to report. We have not met lately.
Thank you, sir. Board of Trustees for Supreme Court Library, Ms. Fiacco.
Thank you. Nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board. So we had our last meeting. They have a recommendation that they put out on the state level, recommending countywide dispatch. They listed a bunch of stuff in an article from, I forget what magazine, I could probably copy it to you, that talked about the different things that people pick up on when, like, one set of dispatch takes care of everything. They see when, this is happening in one town and this is happening in another, and it's easier to track crime and stuff. So right now it's a recommendation. I don't remember who, but somebody said there that they felt initially or eventually it will be you will have countywide dispatch. Cayuga County just passed a resolution in May talking about their countywide dispatch and raising the bar for dispatcher education and what kind of credentials they hold. I don't know that there are bellwether county, but when you look at what people have across the state, it appears to be kind of going that way. The other thing is they made great legislative steps towards allowing us to have EMS give blood products again. There was a kind of a banner case that they detailed where the person, because they were on the border of Pennsylvania, they were able to medevac blood in and give it at the scene while they waited to extricate the person. It was life-saving. I don't know if you guys realize this, but right now, if if I have a patient in Messina that needs blood products and to be moved to Burlington and to be moved to another place, I have to send a nurse in the ambulance. Some of these little departments have 2 nurses and a doctor on, or 2 nurses and a mid-level on, and you're scrambling to find a nurse that you can put in the back of an ambulance and send them 3 hours away one way. ER nursing shortage in our area is pretty significant. So us being able to go back to letting the EMTs, well, actually they would be the ACLS carrying paramedics that would take the blood products, but being able to go back to that would be a significant win for the state of New York. So we'll follow that. That's all I have. Environmental, does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry. Mr. Akers.
Well, I do. I don't know if Mr. Denner is still with us. I think there would be interest on the board to ask Mr. Denner to prepare some type of either a program for us about what a county-wide dispatch system would
He's already
look like.
working on it.
So I don't know if Matt,
He's already got that.
yeah, he's there. So Matt, that's what I would, like, I personally would be interested. We know that Governor Ogdensburg and Messina have expressed interest in dispatch. Is that something that you could prepare for us that would encompass those desires if indeed those communities are there, what the county costs would be and ramifications, the equipment and all the other stuff needed?
Yeah, that's stuff that's already in the works.
Okay. How soon would you have that finished? We could take a look at it, you could present it to us. There's probably a lot to it, I'm sure.
It's been very overwhelming of information to gather. I've been reaching out to a lot of other emergency managers in New York State and asking them their pros, their cons, the steps they went. And right now, as you all know, we're looking at equipment. So it's quite extensive, yes.
Well, I would be interested in some type of report. It doesn't have to be, the detail that is going to be necessary to implement such a plan. But I think
I can probably put something together for the next operations meeting for you, at least an update and let you know where we're at and where I'm at so far.
okay, that would be great. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Matt. Anybody else? Questions? Okay, seeing none. Environmental Management Council, Mrs. Germinelli.
Thank you, Chair Curran. Our last meeting was on May 19th, and our presentation was from Brian Washburn, who is an EMC member, but also a professor emeritus at SUNY Canton. And he presented on reducing carbon emissions in your homes, and kind of went through the timeline that him and his wife went through when they converted their home and made it more carbon friendly. So he shared, we talked about some of the ecological footprint calculators that are available online and the pros and cons of some of them. And then he really just shared a lot of the inexpensive things that the average everyday person could do without a huge investment to reduce their energy use. Things like LED lighting, water saving toilets, unplugging items not being used, and plugging like spacers into your outside outlets, putting storm doors, door sweeps, using EPA certified appliances, setting your hot water at 115, your thermostats at 70, using ceiling fans, hanging your clothes outside, the ghost wattage appliances, the things that stay plugged in all the time and pull electricity even when you're not using them, things that have digital displays on them, etc., turning your lights off, cold water laundry. So just some of those things that all of us could do to just consume less energy. And then in our committee meetings, our subcommittee meetings, some of the highlights, and I won't go over everything, but some of the highlights, the Environment and Economy Committee is still looking into the fish ladders that would allow jumping fish like the salmon to have bypass. They're looking in Black Lake, Madrid, Oswegatchie, just at some of the models that are out there and then what's available. The Invasive Species Committee met with Michelle Gallagher from the Black Lake Committee, and they talked about some short-term and long-term planning and goal setting. They also looked at the invasive species, the Watershed Management Plan that they currently have at Black Lake. It's a document from 2008. And some of the recommendations that are in there are just kind of ancient. They need to be updated a little bit. They're things that since 2008 they found that are not best practices for controlling invasives. So they're going to look into updating that. And that's what the planning office will assist in that. Watershed Management, SLELO, I don't know if that's how you say it, SLELO, PRISM, they're doing an invasive species symposium, and it's actually a citizen science event. So they're looking for volunteers. It's being held June 23rd and 24th. It's the tributaries of the St. Lawrence River. So they're looking to sample for invasive species. And then the last thing that the Watershed Management Committee is working on, and it's in preliminary stages, but they're looking at drafting some kind of almost a matrix that different, it'd be for like financial assistance for invasives, kind of brought up because of the request from Black Lake, that if there was a pool of money or if there was a budget set aside each year for invasives, that different water bodies could fill out this matrix and we could provide possible assistance based on what we have available and the level of need using this matrix. So they're kind of working on that. And once they have that ready, that's something they would like to present before the board. Our next meeting is June 16th at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Milnelli. Fire advisory. Oh, wait, does anybody have any questions for her? On to go to the Fire Advisory Board, Mr. Takisha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Nothing new since my last report, but our next meeting is this coming Thursday, July 17th.
We'll check back in.
At 7.
Thank you. Inter-County Legislative Committee, there was no meeting in May as we did not have an agenda or anything on the agenda. June 24th is the next meeting in Clinton County, and we're going in person with other people and going to be in the same place with them. I know, it's gonna be okay though, trust me. All right, so that's it. Jury Board, Mr. Sheridan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jury board has not met recently.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sheridan. Planning Board, Mr. Fay.
Okay, basically our planning board meeting started with a training session on the cannabis law. It's gonna be, we're gonna hear a lot about it in every community, and I'd hate to think how many years we're gonna be hearing about it and what's going to take place. So if I had to give you a report on it, I wouldn't feel confident at all, except for I listened to the whole presentation. The next thing we talked about was basically our rollout of our 5G towers in St. Lawrence County and the problems we're going to have there. We're trying to get the whole county covered. Right now, I believe we have 130 4G cell towers, and to put on a 5G antenna, it will only cover approximately a mile from the tower. So we've got problems trying to get the county covered with them, and basically the cost is going to become a factor. If anybody's been following this game, we're going from 4G to 5G, and all of a sudden we're gonna have 6G. Some people think it's gonna be a while coming yet, but basically, I think it may come faster than we think, but we're gonna have problems in that area too if we wanna think we're gonna get the whole county covered.
Well, yeah, I mean, it only takes a square mile, we've got 2,821 square miles, so.
Not gonna be easy. Okay, basically, the next thing we talked about is a full review, of a zoning map amendment for the town of Potsdam on Route 56 out of the south, just past Potsdam State. They want to make it a little more commercial. We made a number of suggestions to what the town of Potsdam wanted to do, made them non-binding, but maybe they would help them in the direction they want to go, and as it becomes a little more commercial that way. And basically, our suggestions were non-binding as far as that's concerned, and we had issued about 3 members of understanding also changes. Guess that's all I got to report.
Any questions for Mr. Fay? I have one, if nobody else does. Colorado has now put out a set of laws, just probably 4 weeks ago I saw it, set out to deal with all of the problems with their legal marijuana dispensaries and the lifestyle that goes with it and the abrupt increase in crime that they've seen and all the other problems they have. Has anybody looked at that yet?
Yes,
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys.
yeah, and base is one of the considerations we have to take into it, you know, just as a personal feeling on this. You can grow marijuana at home, why are you gonna buy it and give tax dollars to the state? So, I mean, I perceive personally myself, we're going to have a number of problems with the new cannabis law. And basically, at what level are we going to be able to enforce it locally? How many dispensaries are we gonna have in a town or village or, I mean, I can go on forever on discussion on what can happen there. And I think, my perception of it is that I think somebody thought we're gonna have a financial gold mine there. I don't see it, but maybe I'm misreading it.
On the reservation, I think we're up to 5 dispensaries now on the American side. So, all right, anyone else have any questions? Any old business? Any new business? Okay, seeing none. We have need for executive session for,
We do for litigation, negotiations, and appointments.
do I have Mr. Forsythe starts and Mr. Sheridan seconds it. I guess we'll move on to executive session.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm telling you, without my little roof notes, it's tough. Wanted to gavel you a couple times.
Adjourn.